Welcome back. It is 3 after 12 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum. You tuned into the news and view show with me, Julie Ali, on Salam Media. And we're now going to talk about speech therapy and audiology. And it's not about whether you can hear well or not, or whether you're speaking correctly or not. This is focused on our children. I think I love the angle that the interview is taking on today, very especially since it's back to school. And we do know that we want our little darlings to become very articulate, to be able to express themselves clearly and be well understood. And that's where our guest comes in. She is Attiya Dadabhay, speech therapist and audiologist. Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah for having me on the show.
Lovely to have you here. What would you say, Attiya, is most understood uh, when you tell people that you're a speech therapist and audiologist? What is the incorrect perception in the public domain about the type of work you do?
Okay, so that's a very important question actually, because if people don't understand what we do, then they won't know when to bring their kids or when to make referrals appropriately. So, in terms of speech therapy, I think the biggest misconception is that either we do something that's speech and drama or something to
Ah,
that effect, or that we only there to correct things like your lisp or your difficulty saying an R sound or your difficulty pronouncing certain sounds. However, speech therapy is so extensive, and so is audiology. I think it's important for parents to understand that when it comes to understanding instructions, when it comes to expressing themselves, when it comes to feeding difficulties, when it comes to any hearing problems or understanding problems, even processing problems when it in the school setting, the teacher says the child is given an instruction and they can't understand what I'm saying, even though they're hearing me. That's all within the speech therapy domain. So I think that parents need to understand that it's not just fixing speech errors, but it's also helping with the use of language, the understanding of language, grammar, feeding, hearing, and so many other aspects that we can assist children with, especially in the school setting or even before school, to get them ready for that school setting.
okay. I'm going to come in with a personal question. I'm giving myself the permission to do that on the show this morning. I have a 4-year-old grandson, and sometime during last year, he had a problem with his teeth. So they had to extract four of his front teeth. I'm wondering how that's going to impact on his speech going forward, apart from, being understood, number one. What I'm also afraid of is, will he kind of develop a complex because he would have to probably keep repeating himself?
Yes, so definitely. And I think what's also important for us to understand is that structure plays an important part in the speech and the articulation. So, obviously, in order to form certain words, our mouths need to move in certain ways, our articulators need to move in certain ways. So, usually, when children have their teeth removed or there's any structural problems in the mouth, we first need to correct that structural problem before we can work on the speech therapy. And also, what's important to note is that with those structural problems, children learn to speak that way. So that's how they develop their speech. So when it comes to then teaching them to articulate correctly, we need to change those patterns that they've already developed. So I think in terms of your grandson, once the teeth that they extracted have grown back, and his structures are the way they should be, then would speech therapy be able to help correct the
Ah,
patterns or the errors that he's made when he didn't have the teeth in his mouth. And also, it's not a quick fix. Sometimes it takes a few sessions, a few months, and obviously, carry over at home is the most important. So, children will come in for 45-minute session. We do the therapy, we do the session, but we try and equip parents so that they can take those things home and work consistently with the child so that the skill can be developed at home and functionally carried over.
okay. Just so that I understand you correctly, a speech therapy in the case of my grandson would only be recommended once his structure is in place, once the teeth
Yes.
regrow. Because if you do it too soon, it's going to be tiring for him. and it's going to be relearning all of the time. So
Yes.
a mom
Yeah.
has to wait till the teeth, his second set of teeth grows in.
Yeah, so if there's any speech errors at the moment, what she can do is just model the correct pronunciation of the sounds, show him how the sounds need to be produced. And then obviously there's limitations to how the sounds can be produced because of his structure, but also it depends on which sounds he's struggling with. So obviously an assessment might be the first starting point, and thereafter we can advise accordingly to say, look, let's wait for the teeth to grow back, or this is what you can do in the meantime, depending on which sound errors he is presenting with.
Okay, so it won't hurt if we have a consult
Definitely
with a
not.
speech therapist right now.
Definitely not.
Okay,
Definitely
great.
not.
Let's talk about the importance of the home environment and a child's language development.
Mhm. Okay, so I think what's important to understand is that children learn best through natural language and through repetition and through everyday routines. So the home environment is the best place to teach language because in the home environment, you are interacting with the child functionally, and there's also everyday routines in which you can repeat certain words, certain sounds, and develop language. So, in the home environment, it means that we need to be talking, listening, responding, and interacting with our children throughout the day. So, for example, during meal time, during bath time, in the car on the way to school, when you're running errands, talk about what you're doing with your child. Describe the actions as they happen. If they are showing interest in a specific object or a specific topic, then build on that with them because they will pay more interest in something that they are interested in. So try and build on topics that they are interested in. Follow their lead and also just repeat different things through your mealtime. For example, if you're cooking, say, let's get the plates, let's get the cups, give them instructions that are functional because we don't always need fancy toys or fancy activities. The more natural you try and develop language, the better. So, for example, if it's mealtime, give them instructions. Go fetch me 3 plates and 2 glasses. Bring me the red plate. Bring me the blue plate. Or, as you're setting the table, talk about the different foods. Talk about the different utensils. If it's bath time, you can name body parts. Talk about your morning routine. If we wake up, what's the first thing we're going to do? What's the second thing we're going to do? Try and make it as natural and least demanding as possible. So children don't feel under pressure to please you or to have to copy exactly what it is that you are saying, but they learn to develop naturally in the home environment. And this is where most of the learning takes place by you actually interacting with your child.
And don't make it odious for them so that they feel, you're putting pressure on them to
Exactly. So
do
instead of
things
saying,
properly.
what is this? Can you tell
Yeah.
me, name this? Can you show me? Try and make it as natural, make it a
Or the
conversation,
fun
make it an
element, bring in the
interaction.
fun element.
Yes. Bring in
Okay.
play, pretend
Right, right.
play. Let them be the leader and you be the follower and build on what it is that they are interested in so that they don't feel that, this is a burden on me, I'm going to get it wrong, or I don't want to interact because I don't know if I'm going to give the right answer. Just make it as natural as possible and talk more, repeat more. And that's the most important with your child
Let,
at home.
let's look at newborn babies and toddlers.
Mhm.
Let's talk about communication, the type of communication that happens at this age. How crucial is it? What type of communication should mom be engaging in with the little one, the toddler? Because clearly that's where and how they learn. They're going to copy you, emulate you in everything you do and say, even though they may not have the language skills, but it goes into their memory bank, does it not?
Yes, of course. Yes. So when it comes with our babies and our toddlers, the first important thing to notice or to note is that they need to have what we call pre-language skills before they can get their actual language skills. So, what is pre language skills? These are things that we refer to in speech therapy as your pre linguistic skills. So, things such as eye contact, things such as choice making, things such as motor imitation, verbal imitation, copying your facial expressions, learning to take turns in a game, learning to take turns using their voice. Those are all your pre-language skills. And that only develops through interacting with your child, playing with your child, and using language with your child. Once they've developed their pre-linguistic skills, that's when they start to actually develop language. And research says that in the first 3 years of life of a child, that's when they start to absorb the most language through natural interactions and through play. And the way that children learn this and get this is through talking to them. Okay, so a strategy we talk about is what we call talk more. It's just talking to your child about everything that you are doing with them. So this is where they start to absorb. So like you mentioned, it doesn't mean that we expect them at 9 months to start copying the words that we're saying or copy sentences that we're making. But it's all going into their bank, their language bank. They're starting to develop that receptive understanding of certain words, of the environment, of interactions, so that when it comes time for them to express themselves, they've got the receptive understanding already. Receptive always comes before your expressive.
Okay, I want to talk about, and we're going for an ad break, but when I come back, I want to talk about the correct way in correcting your child if they've mispronounced something or have made a mistake. What's the best way to approach it? Because if you're not going to have the correct approach, you're going to put that child off. But all of that and more right after the ad break. Please stay with us.
Calls, a journey begins. Join us for the Hajj 2026 Nusuk Packages Open Day, designed especially for South African Hujjaj. Meet our special guest, Engineer Ahmed Zaki, Director General of Direct Hajj, Rawaf Mina, joining us all the way from Mecca to guide you through the Nusuk processes, available Hajj packages, and provide one-on-one assistance. Sandton, 17th January, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Cape Town, Durban and Lenasia, 18th January, 10:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Secure your place on the sacred journey today. Call 010-600-5786. Plus, one lucky attendee will win an Umrah ticket. T's and C's apply. From the heart of Mecca to the world. Your Hajj journey starts here.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
You South African, of course. You anxious about the future. We've got you covered. Build on your wealth portfolio with Randry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange. Visit us at 151 Stephen Dlamini Road, Musgrave, Durban, or call us on 031-202-4700 for more information. Randry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange, your passport to gold investment.
For the first time, I can dream again.
The Africa Muslims Agency Orphan Hope Program provides the food, clothing, and basic support needed by thousands of children across the world. Every child deserves a chance at a hopeful future.
For 50,000 trans, you can transform our lives with the AMA Orphan Hope Program.
Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Dad, these Frymax chips are so tasty.
Wow, that really takes me back. My dad bought me a Frymax chips every day after school. They were my favorite when I was your age as well. Quality is at the very heart of what we do, and that's why we ensure that every Frymax packet is filled with the beautiful goodness and flavor-packed taste that you've come to expect from us since 1982. Frymax, from generation to generation.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 18 after 12 o'clock, and I'm talking to a lovely young lady.
Can't hear
Attiya
you at the
Dadabhay.
moment.
She's a
I'm
speech
so sorry, I'm
therapist
not able to
and
hear you.
audiologist. Okay.
I can't
Just
hear you. Let me just try and sign in again to the link. I'm so sorry. The sound is gone.
okay. Let's take a short break. I do apologize about that. The guest was unable to hear me, so she was talking over me. We do apologize. Let's see if she can reconnect with us. In the meantime, let's take another break.
With Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Fund.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. Let's check if we are able to reconnect with Attiya Dadabhay. She's a speech therapist and audiologist. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I'm so sorry. I'm not
Okay.
sure what happened. I can hear you
No
now.
problem. No problem at all. Before the ad break, or right at the introduction of the program, you mentioned lisping. I'm wondering what is done. Is it a problem if parents don't attend to it by coming to someone like yourself to do the probably necessary exercises? Will the child go throughout life as an adult as well, lisping? That's the one issue. What about people who stutter? Is that something to be concerned about? And when do parents realize they have a problem on their hands? And would you, as a speech therapist, be their first port of call?
Okay, so let me first address the question about lisping. Okay, so lisping was an example that I used as a speech sound error, but obviously different children sometimes have difficulty pronouncing different sounds. For example, the R, the S, any different sound. So yes, it is important to see a speech therapist, because if you do not correct those errors within a certain time, as children get older or as they become adults, remediating that error becomes much more difficult, because the brain and the articulators and everything has already been programmed to say the sound that way. So with each different speech sound, they should develop by a certain age. Okay, so for example, the S develops around the age of 5. So if at the age of 3, a child is struggling with the S, we as speech therapists wouldn't worry about that. We would say, let's give them a bit of time to see when the age is right, are they able to then pronounce that sound. But if, for example, the sound should be developed by a certain age and it's not, that's when we start to worry and we start therapy to start remediating that sound. So again, I would say that the first port of call would be, if you are concerned, if you are worried, if you feel that the disfluency or the pronunciation that your child has is not, is not feeling right according to you as the parent, then trust your instinct, bring them in for a speech therapy assessment, and from there we can advise to say, look, these errors are age appropriate at the moment. Come back after a year or 6 months if you notice that that error is still present, or look, this error needs to be addressed right now. So that is how I would advise in terms of your speech sound errors. Come to a speech therapist, let us have a look, and then advise you accordingly. And the earlier the better, obviously, because as you get older or as you get into your adulthood, remediating those errors become a lot more difficult. Early intervention is the key when it comes to speech therapy or any kind of therapy for that matter. And then when it comes to stuttering, speech therapy can definitely help with stuttering. We have something called normal disfluency, which is common in your younger kids. But as they get older and you notice that they're stuttering, especially when they're nervous or in certain situations or with certain words, then again, bring them in for an assessment. We can assess further, and we do therapy as we see fit. And we give you exercises to work on at home in order to build that skill with the child.
So you mentioned age appropriate. Stuttering would be common in what age group? When should mom and dad be concerned that the stuttering needs to be addressed by a speech therapist?
So I think it would depend on the child specifically. There's no specific age group where I can say, okay, a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. But I think up until the age of 3, we get what we call normal disfluency, where the children are still acquiring language, they're still learning to talk in sentences. But obviously, you need to look for a pattern. You know, if there's a specific word or a specific sound, for example, W, that you notice every single time your child tries to say W, they're stuttering on that word, even if they're 3 years old. Then you bring them in for an assessment. So I would say up until the age of 3, look for patterns in the way that they are producing sounds, or is it just normal disfluency as they're learning different words, different sounds in different sentences? And after the age of 3, if you notice that, you know, their speech is really disfluent, there's certain sounds that they always stutter on, or you can notice that even at school or with other people, this is affecting their communication, then bring them in sooner rather than later. Trust your instinct, bring them in for an assessment, and we can advise further in terms of whether it's actually a stuttering problem, it's a disfluency problem, where is the problem lying? I think the key is always assessment in terms of what the problem actually is.
What are the most common mistakes by well-meaning parents regarding when they're trying to help their child speak and to speak correctly? What do those mistakes look like?
Okay, so I think the first thing is by thinking that children learn through teaching, like by sitting them down and saying, this is a cup, this is a spoon. You know, they want to sit their kids down, show them flashcards, and try and teach them a whole lot of different vocabulary. Like I mentioned before, language happens best through naturalistic ways, through everyday routines, and through talking and interacting with your child. So I think the first thing is remember that children learn through play. So incorporate play in your everyday routine, incorporate speech and language in your daily activities, and also try and not think that the phone or apps are a replacement for you teaching your child. Okay, so remember that screen time doesn't build language the way that your human interaction does. So I think this is something really important to mention, because sometimes parents would say, no, they sit on the phone, but don't worry, it's educational things like flashcards and this games and these games. That is not a replacement for your natural voice and your human interaction. Okay, so I'm not saying don't give them any screen time, because in today's time that's not feasible. But if they are in front of the phone, then maybe you use that as a means to interact with them as well. So, you know, discuss what they're watching on the screen, talk to them about what they're seeing on the screen, but don't use that as a replacement to teach them language. Another thing is that try not to, like you mentioned earlier, correct your child at every communication attempt that they make. So if they're trying to say something to you and it's incorrect, or it's not pronounced the right way, or they use the wrong word, reinforce what they're saying. Oh, okay, I see. You saying that this is an apple. Good trying that you're trying to name it, but it's actually a pear. Don't say, no, it's not an apple, or correct what they're saying in a way that puts them down. Try and make it natural, acknowledge their communication attempt, and then correct them in a natural, meaningful way, so that they feel that their communication matters and that they will want to keep on communicating with you and keep on learning with you.
A lot of parents have this tug of war between themselves when the kids are little, and they're wanting the kids to learn more than one language. And I think it's a remarkable thing to encourage your children to speak more than one language. But how does that impact? Let's assume the father is Gujarati speaking, the mum is Afrikaans speaking, and then you're also wanting the child to understand English. How much of a challenge is it going to be for that family, and what would be the right approach regarding multilingualism as far as the child is concerned?
Okay, so actually, multilingualism is not a problem. You can actually speak to your child in many different languages as they are growing up. And a lot of people have this misconception that, we can't speak to our child in different languages because it will confuse them, but it actually doesn't. If you are speaking to them in multiple different languages as they are acquiring language, like I said, before the age of 3, that's when they start to absorb most language. It's not a problem. So speaking to your children in many different languages is actually not discouraged. And I think that it's important. If you are speaking more than one language, then speak more than one language with your child. But try not to code switch or, speak more than one language at the same time. If one person is speaking to the child in Gujarati, like you said, and the mom speaking to the child in English, it's not a problem. Children will acquire those different languages. And again, the earlier, the better. As they get older, to learn different languages becomes difficult because they've already got a core language that they base their language on. But talking to them in many different languages is not a problem at all.
And the earlier, the better, I should imagine.
The earlier, the better. The earlier, the better. Everything, the earlier, the better. Because that is when children are actually acquiring language. So even if your child has a speech or language delay, the earlier you seek help from a therapist, the better for your child. Because as they get older, to now start teaching them becomes a lot more difficult. Their brain is not as neuroplastic. It's not absorbing as much information as it does in that first 3 years of their life.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap up now. My final question then to you is, what is the one, the one piece of advice that would really make sense to the parents and to the child regarding strengthening their child's communication skills? And it doesn't matter what age group we're talking about here.
I think what I would give as a piece of advice is to say that every child develops at their own pace. That's important to know. But if parents are worried, you are the ones who spend the most time with your child. So always trust your instinct and remember that early assessment is always better than waiting. And I think another thing is that you do not need to always feel the need that you need expensive toys or that you need to sit and take out time to teach language. You just need to live it out with your child through everyday activities and through meaningful interaction with them.
Attiya Dadabhay, it's been absolutely wonderful talking with you. I've learned a bit, I can tell you that much, alhamdulillah, and I hope and pray that parents who have been, wrecking their brains regarding their anxiety with their children, communication skills and whatever else, don't do it yourself. Don't punish yourself. We have professionals like yourself as a speech and language therapist, and you are the person we need to get in touch with, and you can allay our fears by, I should imagine, 1 or 2 simple tests. So thank you so much.
And just so much for having us.
Just remind us once again, where can people find you? How do they contact you?
Okay, so I'm based at the Crown Med Day Hospital, which is in Fordsburg. So it's the old Fordsburg Clinic. You can find my details online if you search for Crown Med Day Hospital speech therapist. And we also have a multidisciplinary team with an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist. So it's always helpful if parents are looking for services under one roof, so they don't have to be going from place to place. And then we also do the hearing screening. So remember that if a child is not hearing properly, they can't develop language well. So always testing your child's hearing is the first step to making sure that we can remediate their speech and their language. So yes, Crown Med Day Hospital.
Thank you, Attiya. It was lovely talking with you. All the very best to you, inshallah. Go well.
Okay. Walaikum salam.
That was Attiya Dadabhay, and she, of course, is a speech and language therapist, talking to us about when you as a parent should be concerned regarding your child's language skills, articulation, how they communicate, and what it is that you ought to be doing if you are concerned about them possibly not meeting some of their communication milestones. It is exactly 12:32, and in a minute or two, we are going to be joined by an industrial psychologist to tell us how to kickstart and get the best out of the new year.